With players hanging them up early due to health worries, this offseason has seen the NFL produce more retirees than a nursing home. Is this just a freak month, or does the league have to do some damage control? We welcome back Anthony Corneli, RBTL contributor, member of the Montreal Alouettes, Nicolas Boulay, and David Hurley. Are you surprised with him announcing his retirement this early, this young, with so much potential ahead of him?
Honestly, no. I don't think so. I mean, the average career for NFL players is 3.3 years. 3.3 years. People don't realize it, but it's really, really short. And you've seen a lot of guys just go under the radar, retire, and you don't hear about it because they're not studs. They're just there's every other player or whatever, and you see it going like that. And some of these guys start playing football when they're 10 years old. So when they get to the pros, they're 24, 25. They've been playing for about 15 years. Yeah. Their body's hurting. And the grind and the work you have to put in just to be ready for the next season. And you have the young guns coming in that's pushing behind you, and you're trying to make keep you that spot for yourself. In NFL, the competition is so fierce. You have so many players coming out of so many good schools that are there's so many of them that it's.
But some would argue though that a big reason why he made this decision or was able to make this decision is because of his privileged background, right? Yeah. Some would say, you come from a different neck of the woods, you might not necessarily have that option.
You have the Tim Hightowers of the Arizona Cardinals coming out and saying, this guy's putting a bad name to football by taking a retirement so early. Some of these guys don't have the fortunate background or the fortunate money situations where they could afford to do this. Some of these guys also have a very lavish lifestyle that they go out, they party hard, and they make good money. But also when you retire, that money goes by pretty quick. So what they have to do is they really have to be a lot smarter, and I think that's what Borland did.
In this situation, I just feel bad for all the ex-NFL players or ex-CFL players that played 10, 12 years in the league in the glory days, that they trained with injuries, broken bones, and they made peanuts. Yeah. And nowadays, I mean, I kind of respect the decision that he backed away from football. Not everybody has the luxury of being from a good family. Like you said, a lot of the lower income families that their players had no choice but to come out of the ghetto almost to make the NFL and whatnot and support the family. So I just feel bad for the old timers.
Listen, I also think though that the players are a lot more educated. We're seeing it a lot more now with the CTEs coming out. You have players, they're killing themselves because of the traumatic stress, to so much trauma to one's brain from concussions.
But I don't think the studies, football.
They're not even there yet. They're not there yet.
But football is a violent sport.
Absolutely.
Period. So you can talk about safety control till you're blue in the face. You can talk about safety measures, precautions, education. But at the end of the day, there's a cost here that there's an opportunity cost.
I think we're talking a lot about money. We're talking about future and all that. But I think for some of these guys, sometimes they just lose the flame. It could just be that. They get to that point. They've been playing for 15 years. They just wanted to prove to themselves they could make it to the pros. And once they're there, it's like they don't have anything else to accomplish. And it's like, I already got a good life set up. I've got a bachelor degree in finance or in whatever, and I'm just going to go ahead and go do that because I love doing that as much as I love doing my sport, but it's less risky.
I'm sure you see a lot of guys who are hurt. When you see these guys take a hit, you kind of look back and you're like, yeah, that's a concussion, 100% concussion. Yet, because of what you mentioned before, that these guys have to play through and have to get on the field, they don't want to lose their position. Do you think that culture will ever change? Do you think there's ever going to be a moment where players collectively will say, hey, you know what? I'm not going out there, and I'm not going to play under these circumstances?
I think the concussion protocol is getting better and better than it was, actually. Just now, I mean, they're making sure we're more and more educated on concussions. So players now know when they have a concussion and actually will know to take themselves out sometimes.
But then as a professional, you were talking about it before.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Sure.
I don't know what they're doing in the CFL, but in the NFL last year alone, they invested $16 million on research. The concussions were down, I believe, to 13% from the year before.
I think, if anything,
NFL cares.
Yeah, the NFL cares, but the CFL cares as well. All the professional leagues are taking the proper steps into bettering themselves because they're getting sued left, right, and center. I think what the biggest thing is the players have to educate themselves, and like he's saying, the leagues are doing that for you guys, and that's fantastic because I mean, you guys don't want to be punch drunk. You don't want to wake up at 50 years old and not able to remember your son's name.
But do the leagues really care, or are they just protecting their asset, which is their players?
No,
their players sell the
they're
big
protecting
tickets,
their
the
asset,
players
which
sell
is
the
their
network
owners'
games.
pocketbooks. The players are a pawn towards getting them the money. These guys are the guys that go through the whole brunt of it all. It's tough on them. So I'm happy that they're educating you guys a little bit more to give you a better lifestyle.
A lot of
afterwards.
times what happened was guys would get concussions and either wouldn't tell or would tell, but would go back to the play